Welcome back, my friends. In our last conversation, we spoke of language, those marvelous little instruments we use to describe what we see and feel. Today, we come to something perhaps even more important, the second leg of criticism, standard. And here we ask a question that separates thoughtful critique from mere opinion. By what standard shall we judge? It sounds simple enough. Yet more photographs are misunderstood by this question than by almost any other. Because the truth is this, not every photograph asks the same thing of us, and heaven help us if we insist they do. A beginner wrestling with composition is not standing before us with the same ambitions as a seasoned professional preparing a portfolio for publication. One photographer may be trying to understand light, another may be trying to tell a story, a third may be trying to make us stop, stare, and feel something impossible to explain. Those are not the same task, and they should not be judged by the same ruler. A wildlife photograph and an abstract still life may both be excellent while attempting entirely different conversations. One may ask for patience, precision, timing. The other may ask for imagination, shape, mystery. To critique both with identical expectations would be like attending both a jazz concert and a church choir, then complaining that one of them improvises too much. No, a critic's first responsibility is not to judge, it is to understand. Before offering a single opinion, pause and ask, what is this photograph trying to do? What is the maker reaching for? Is this image inviting wonder, recording reality, exploring emotion, experimenting with form? Then ask, who is it for? The photographer alone, a club assignment, a magazine audience, a gallery wall, family and friends? Context matters, audience matters, intent matters. And then ask one more. What genre is this photograph speaking within? Portraiture, street, landscape, documentary, fine art, minimalism. Each genre has its own traditions, its own expectations, its own vocabulary. And once we understand those things, then we may begin. Then we evaluate not by our personal preferences, but by how well the photograph succeeds on its own terms. That distinction matters enormously. Technical perfection may matter deeply in one frame. A wildlife image may rise or fall on sharp focus, decisive timing, and clean separation. But another image may carry emotional truth so profound that a little blur becomes part of its poetry. A portrait may whisper vulnerability with imperfect light. An abstract may deliberately refuse clarity, and both may be entirely successful. The critic must learn to recognize when perfection serves the image and when perfection is beside the point. That is not lowering standards, quite the opposite. It is applying the right standards, which is harder and nobler, because fair standards require both principle and humility. Principle says craft matters, intent matters, choices matter. Humility says this photograph may not be trying to become what I would have made, and that humility is precious. A wise critic does not drag every photograph toward personal taste. A wise critic asks, did this photographer accomplish what they intended? And if not, where might the next step be? That keeps critique honest, it keeps critique generous, and most importantly, it keeps critique useful, because our role is not to stand atop some imaginary mountain passing down verdicts like thunderbolts. No, our role is to help another artist see more clearly, to recognize what is working, to notice where intent and execution align beautifully, and where they may still need one another. So remember, standards should be principled, firm enough to guide. We should care about craft, about choices, about clarity of purpose, but they must also be flexible enough to remain fair, adaptable enough to honor different goals, different voices, different stages of growth. And when we balance those things well, principle with flexibility, expectation with context, honesty with fairness, we become the kind of critic artists trust, not because we flatter, not because we avoid difficult truths, but because they know we are measuring carefully, listening first, judging thoughtfully, and speaking with standards that fit the photograph before us. And that, my friends, is how criticism becomes not a hammer, but a compass. Until next time.